With this lesson, we will start a new topic, rewarding an interesting topic of Russian language, conjugation of verbs. And we will learn in the following 10 lessons present tense conjugation of verbs. Well, the general structure, how will we do this? We'll have verbs, and every verb got endings, last few letters. Well, to conjugate them, we will find the last few letters according to certain criteria, to certain rules, and replace them with other endings which are proper to certain personal pronouns. Sounds easy? Well, we will see. So, to find a certain verb, well, certain category of verbs, we divided verbs into 6 categories, 6 types. Type 1 until 6. How we recognize these types? Well, we will learn them in the following lessons. However, I'm telling you, we recognize them according to the endings. And once we recognize the verb, once we recognize the type of this verb, we remove the ending and replace it with the according personal pronoun ending. So, let's write our personal pronouns. Я, ты, он, она, мы, вы, and они. So, we got you in singular and in plural. Ты is you, and if you address somebody you already know, somebody younger than you, your friends, your acquaintances, your parents. Вы is the form of you for addressing people you respect, for people who are older than you, people you don't know. Basically anybody, if you want to address Russians in a polite form, you should use вы. So, and another thing about personal pronouns for you to remember, we already talked about this, is how to pronounce она and они. Can you hear how I pronounce она and они? I'm pronouncing it with a. Она, они. Well, this is pronunciation rule. You can learn it in the phonetic section, phonetic lessons of Russian Online University. However, if you read it as она and они, Russians will understand you. I told you so many times, Russian is phonetic language. You read the same way as, well, once you know the alphabet and you can read, you read the right way. So here it's one of the exceptions where you need to read она and они, but don't worry about this. I just mentioned it, and you can use it or not. Russians will understand you. Well, and for the example, I will give you two verbs, and we will conjugate them according to our personal pronouns. The first one would be читать. Читать. Читать is to read. Well, and in читать, as I told you, we will remove the last letters. We will remove the ending. And here the ending would be t. And conjugation would be я читаю, I am reading. So we're removing t and placing instead of t, you. Я читаю, I am reading. Ты читаешь, you are reading. Instead of t, we are placing ешь. Ты читаешь, you are reading in singular. Он читает, he is reading. And она читает, she is reading. We're replacing t with yet. Она читает. Мы читаем. Again, мы читаем, we are reading. Вы читаете in the polite form or in the plural of you are. Вы читаете. Те, вы читаете. And они читают. They are reading. Они читают. We're replacing t with ют, and we got they are reading. So, it's not that difficult, isn't it? We will see. So, говорить. Another example. Говорить, to speak. Говорить. Говорить. Here we need to remove last three letters. So we got говор. And again, we replace the last three letters with special endings. Я говорю. I'm speaking. Ты говоришь. You are speaking. Он, она говорит. He or she is speaking. We're replacing it with it. Он, она говорит. Ты говоришь. You are speaking in singular. Мы говорим. Вы говорите. And они говорят. They are speaking. So, basically you understood the functionality. How will we do this? Now I want to give you also two categories of endings. Basically two types of conjugation. We will call them conjugation type number 1 and conjugation type number 2. And for both conjugation I will give you endings, the possible endings. Well, for conjugation type number 1, for the я, for personal pronoun я, we got two endings, you and u. You and u. Well, for conjugation type number 2, it would be you and u also. You and u. Here we got ешь for ты, for you, we got ешь. He or she ед. Мы ем. Вы ете. And они ют. Can you hear? Can you see? We got actually conjugation type number 1 by читать. So, читаю, читаешь, you are reading, she or he читает, мы читаем, вы читаете, они читают. So this is conjugation type number 1. However, for conjugation type number 1, there is also another set of endings. With ё. So for ты, it would be ешь, ешь. Йод. Ем. Йоте. And ут. So, у, ешь, йод, ем, йоте, and ут. There is a rule how to recognize where to put ё and where to put je, and we will learn it later on. Now let's go to the conjugation type number 2. For conjugation type number 2, we will put instead of ё, и. Actually, we already got it in говорить. Говорить follows the conjugation type number 2 rules. So we got ищ, eat, им, eat, им, ите, and at, and yat. So, for я, for personal pronoun я, I, you, у, ты, ищ, он, она, he or she, eat, мы, им, вы, ите, они, ят or at. And in говорить, actually, we already got the conjugation type number 2. We removed the last three letters and we replaced them for I'm speaking, я говорю, ты говоришь, you are speaking, we are speaking would be вы, мы говорим, and they are speaking, они говорят. So, basically you got the structure now. Now I also want to present to you the endings. Now let's see the types of the endings. I already resized for you a little bit the scheme before, how to conjugate the conjugation type number 1 and conjugation type number 2. Let's see how can we categorize the endings. However, for you, just to know right now, you don't need to study them. Just write them for yourself and use them for each verb we will use from now on. And exercise them by watching videos from this video until the rest of the present tense conjugation. So here we got type number 1, tip номер 1. Can you hear tip and type? These are cognates, the words with the same sound and same meaning, more or less the same sound. So for the first type we will have endings ать, еть and ять, еть and ять. Second type. Basically, these are the endings of the verbs. So once you found the verb in the dictionary or the verb you want to use, you look at the ending, and if it's ать, there is a high possibility it will be from the type number 1. Second one, ending ить. But for the second type, we also might meet ать, еть and ять from the first type. Ать, еть and ять. This is basically where the difficulty is beginning. How can you understand from which type which verb is coming from? Well, you cannot. You need to study verbs. You need to learn them and you need to get used to them. So, the third type would be нуть, нуть, еять and аять. But also ать and ить. Don't get scared. There are so many things and they are intercepting each other. For example, ать is from the type number 1 and ить from the type number 2. The logic of the whole structure is to make you get used to Russian language, to structurize it at least a little bit. And anyway, everybody who uses Russian, they're not going through all of the schemes in their heads. They're more or less using their intuition and experience with Russian. So you need to make mistakes to be able to speak proper Russian, to be able to study proper Russian. Don't be afraid of mistakes, make mistakes, and watch videos. I will go through 50 most used verbs and I will conjugate them all for you. And hopefully it will be helpful for your future studies. So, now we get the type number 4. Type number 4 got endings овать and евать. Овать and евать. No other endings, so they are pretty distinguished ones. Type number 5 is sti, ending sti, zt, zt, мягкий знак, zt, and st, st, мягкий знак. And the type number 6, ending ch. So, well, now I give you the whole structure. Technically, we're taking a verb, for example, читать, to read. We are searching for the ending. Which ending is читать following? So, here we got ать. And we're following the scheme C1 now. How to know which scheme to follow? Well, I will tell you this. The type number 1 is C1. Type number 2 is C2. Basically, only the type number 2 follows C2 rule, C2 structure. So this line of verbs is type number 2. The rest is C1. C1, C1. C1. C1s for conjugation type number 1 and conjugation type number 1. Don't worry, you will exercise it in the next 8 lessons, so don't worry about this. I'm just giving you the general structure, and I'm suggesting you to write this down. I'm suggesting you to write the types with their endings, the categories of conjugation, and the rules for the conjugation, as well also 2 example verbs. And for the example verbs, I would suggest you to learn them with the endings, and it will help you to reconstruct C1 and C2, conjugation type number 1 and conjugation type number 2, because the читать and говорить, they got pretty distinguished endings. Well, I give you the whole structure. It's kind of easy to teach. For teachers, it's an easy game. However, for students, it's a bit different, because you need to keep in mind so many small things, so many rules, and there are some more rules are coming, and you need to process them in your head. That's why I'm repeating over and over again. It's about your experience. It's about your statistical data of language in the head, which is created by using the language, by using and by conjugating verbs as often as possible. Another good thing, we will also learn future tense conjugation and past tense conjugation, and this both conjugations will also help you to develop deeper feelings with Russian verbs, which one to choose at which point, which ending to choose at which point. However, future tense and the past tense will come probably in A2, in the more advanced Russian language learning course. So from now on, another thing, well, from now on you can start watching the videos with each single type put separately and with examples. We will study them, and we will try to come with exceptions also. We will also learn exception cases and additional rules. One more thing to tell you: some teachers teach conjugation differently. Actually, teachers cannot decide which type of conjugation teaching to choose. One conjugation type, for example, I know there are 11 types of verbs. So verbs are falling in 11 types, 11 categories, which is logical because we got so many exceptions here. For example, how can we distinguish, is it type number 1 or type number 2? Well, it's another possibility. However, even with the most advanced technique of distinguishing which verb where to use, there are exceptions. Russian language is based on exceptions, and exceptions are there every time we get a rule. So there's six type verbs, so 6 category verbs. Technique, I think it's the most useful one, and it is most useful not only because the amount of types is reduced, but also because we can reduce certain rules. And for you, and in your current stage of beginner of Russian language, it is better to have as least rules as possible. So I hope the lessons will be helpful for you. Please leave comments in the comment section of videos on the website of Russian Online University, and I'm promising you I will go through all of them, I will answer them, and I will also make additional lessons if I see there is a necessity of explaining something something deeper.